wish chemtrails were psilocybin.
Hello, boys and girls.
Hi.
What a wonderful day it is today in our money-based economy.
That's
Well,
odd.
sit back and relax and get ready for the guy who's about to ruin everything.
Eerie
I'm
almost.
puzzled. Are you really seriously suggesting that Jesus Christ was a mushroom?
Wayne.
Yep.
Jesus was a mushroom Roberts.
Yes. You are dealing with a secret cult, a secret society.
Welcome to Waning Interest.
Welcome to the Waning Interest Podcast. Hour number 71. April 30. Was it April 30th or is it May 1st? It's May 1st, actually, is when it'll truly go out. May 1st, 2020. So happy May Day, maybe a bunch of strike day. I don't know, a bunch of stuff and stuff that apparently is supposed to happen on May 1st during the pandemic. I mean quarandemic. I mean, what? You know, the thing that I don't spend any time talking about. You know, that thing. I do hope you're doing well. You and yours are doing well. I mean that sincerely. I know I'm a dry, sarcastic little twat, but I do actually mean that. But I also mean to hopefully make you chuckle. So welcome to the smallest click on the internet. The pinball brain in your favorite machine. I've got to cut my toenails so badly. Well, maybe it's not that bad. It's Friday, you bastards. Thank you, Neil. It's Friday, May 1st, 2020. Kind of. Still sort of April 30th, 2020. But you get it at this point, don't you? Yep. All right, sorry. I ever tell you that mainstream media makes me feel like I'm still married? Lots of gaslighting. But seeing how you're most likely a whip, or maybe a new whip, you already knew that. Yeah, a new whip would know that. A new part of the Waning Interest Podcast pack would know that 3 minutes in. That you despise mainstream media. Yeah, they totally got that. Well, they do now. Man, oh, did I tell you? Been doing this a year now. It's a year. Da 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 da. I should have said it in the last hour. Duh. But I forgot. Duh, 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 duh. Duh? A whole year. I made it a year. 71. Not, well, it's actually, because there's like, including Patreon, I think there's 3 podcasts that are only 30 minutes. 3 or 4. Maybe 2. Let's settle with 3. So, almost 71 hours. I like to think of it like my favorite television show of all time, like many others, Breaking Bad. To where it was like the number of episodes was slightly off and all these things, where the first season was only 7 episodes because of the writer's strike of that year, and then it was 13, and then 13, and then 13, and then 16 split in half like they would do with Mad Men, or maybe, no, not Sopranos. Anyway, that's what I'm seeing with this, you know. There's a few that are only 30. Anyway, point is, I didn't think I'd make it this far. Holy shit. Ding ding, bada bing ding. Ding ding, bada ding ding. See, we did it different. It wasn't ding 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 da da ding ding. We did it ding 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 da da ding ding. Did I tell you this is the smallest click on the internet? Where we tell stories. It's storytelling hours. If you're new to the pack, I like to tell silly stories from my past and from my present sometimes, depending on how necessary they feel to be spewed out on the Waning Interest podcast, where I seem to have a little bit of trouble breathing. I was just really excited to take a drink. This hour is not sponsored by Komora Coffee Liqueur and 7-Eleven milk. So, there. And you know what? With this fucking hair and my belly, because I've put on 25 pounds since last September. So starting in October until now, I've put on 25 pounds. And with the hair and growing out through the pandemic, I feel like the dude. Oh, and with the Komora and milk. That already sort of said. So I sort of blew what I was trying to say because I left out one of the most important parts to really put the dude in your brain so I could say, but if he was uncool. If only I was wearing my Mexican rag, my pullover that looks like, you know those. They're usually striped, but mine's not striped. Mine's just like this off-white. I had another one that was off-white, which you can see if you look up The Last Hand, Larry Hankin. It's a web series I did many years ago with Old Joe from Breaking Bad and El Camino. It's a fun little web series, so just type in The Last Hand, Larry Hankin. I've mentioned it before on the podcast and on Nate the Bullet, my previous podcast. I'll try to remember to put a link, which I will usually do a pretty good job of remembering because I give it a listen proof before it goes out. And what you just heard was a whole bunch of echo laughter. Wait, is distant echo laughter of a bunch of whips laughing that, I forgot my point. See? No, truly, where was I? So if I had my rag on, that would actually be the perfect time. I decided I wanted to take a little video. I've done video promos that you can see on YouTube if you're new to the pack. Let me switch hands with the phone and the microphone because I think it might be easier. But I've never recorded one of the little video things for the podcast during the actual podcast. So here we go for the first one. Yeah. So right now we're in 9 minutes and 42 seconds into Whip 71. A year. We've been doing this a year. What? Excuse Me, I need a drink. That's where I should cut the video, right? Right, especially because you're not looking in the right place. Now, that's just, how stupid was that? Now let's play that back. And, here we go for the first one, yeah. So right now we're in, 9 minutes and 42 seconds into, Whip 71. A year. We've been doing this a year. Excuse me. I need a drink. That's where I should cut the video, right? Right. Especially because you're not looking in the right place. Okay. I think it was kind of funny. Or funny enough. We'll post that. That'll be fun. I'll put that on the twits, and I'll interest waning, at interest waning. Of course, you knew that. It's like, I don't want to say the at because it makes it seem like I'm saying www, which of course sounds really old these days. Well, depends when you're listening to this. You might not listen. You might not be listening to this tomorrow or the next day or whatever. It could be a couple years before you catch on and go, whoa, who's this fucking strange genius? So, what was the point? I don't remember. What was the point? Seriously, I had it because I was looking at the thing. The dude, it'll always come back around. Something about the video? Seriously, what was I saying? I don't want to go back because it's more fun this way. Wait a minute. This is the part where they realize he's stoned. Patreon, right? Is that what I was talking about? No. See? That wasn't it. You know what I should talk about with this? Maybe I'm being goofy. Maybe I'm not. But it does seem like a good occasion to talk about the first time I got stoned. Not because I'm about to light a cigarette, of course, but maybe a joint as well. But I did put it down in my notes, and I don't know why I was thinking, hey, tell this story. I have a bit about it in my stand-up, a way that I do it. But the short story is, there was a time when I was 8 years old. My dad liked to get high in the basement while he was working on his electronics and soldering shit, doing all kinds of engineering little shit. And I'd be down there playing stuff, games, or kicking my soccer ball against the brick wall, just practicing soccer or whatever, just hanging out with my dad. He'd have the Doobie Brothers playing or something like that. Sometimes the Spinners, Rubber Band Man. And he'd smoke weed. Well, he did this many times, but one time I got a little contact high. Because when I went upstairs to do my homework, I'm staring at my books and the faces that are in, because I'm 8 years old. And the faces are looking at me, things are echoing, my ears, everything's weird as shit, but I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm freaking out. So my mom's freaking out. They don't know what the hell's wrong with me. They don't realize it. At some point they did, apparently. But I just thought it was just some weird thing that happened to me. Until I was 15. When I smoked weed because I didn't smoke it then. I hated having to say that because it sort of broke everything up, but god damn you. But you know how most people usually say they smoke weed like 2 or 3 times before they actually get high? Because either they smoked, at least people my age, excuse me, they might have smoked, really shitty stuff, or they didn't really take a drag because they were scared. We've all done that shit. But it's usually like the second or third time you smoke it. That's the average that people say, and they're like, whoa. Well, for me, it was like the 4th or 5th time where I smoked on purpose, and where I finally felt something. It hit, and bam, and it was so fucking hard. In the first couple minutes, I'm like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden it hit me that, wait a minute, I know this. And that's when it hit me like, that's what happened when I was 8. I got a goddamn contact high. Which made the new high, the second time, 15/first time, like season, say, back to Breaking Bad, season A and, season 5, A and B. You get it. I hope. But of course, it made it even more enjoyable because I was like, what? It was kind of like tripping when the peak, first time when the peak hits. Well, and then times after that when the peak is like, whoa. Brings you back to being like a little kid. But then I made the stupid mistake of fucking saying, oh, I know this. I've gotten high before. And then because I seemed like a wacky douchebag because I'd finally gotten high on purpose, I sounded like a freak douchebag to my friends when I said, no, I've gotten high before. Actually, yeah, whatever, dude. Kind of a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment, but not right. Anyway. See? Told you it was a perfect story to tell at the moment. Just so personal. What is next? But no, I do. It's not quite chilly enough. It's just right, but yeah. Mexican rag. That was one of the things I wanted to go back to. See, I knew. The Last Hand, Larry Hankin. Right. That was the another thing. Put that link. See, I fucking told you. And no, there's no edits in there. There's no nothing. This has been straight 18 minutes and 20 seconds. That doesn't mean you didn't drop an edit. I didn't. I ain't edited nothing. Motherfucker. And even the video's going to be there. Something else that hit me during this time that we're in with people doing all the Zoom stuff, comedians doing stuff on Zoom, other people doing stuff on Zoom, all the TV shows moving to Zoom, and then podcasts, where they're moving into where podcasts are almost like you can do stuff to where, when I haven't done it, but the tech now where the podcast can actually sound more like a radio show with you can hook the phone in to where it's better, not just hold the phone up to a microphone. You can actually do that kind of stuff, not just Skype, but phone. So it sounds like, radio. What was your point? I don't know. Fuck. But basically what it is, like comedians, and not that I'm Doug Stanhope or anybody huge. I'm nothing, nobody. I'm not even a Padawan. Maybe a little. I can swing a sword. I got a bunch of people that can fucking tell you that's true. I'm not bragging. I'm just, finding the funny. But it just, with all the phone calls now, where so much content, where now there's content that's just like, it's just phone calls, just people on the phone having a conversation, which is what a lot of podcasts were doing. And, there were certain ones that were doing that anyway, sort of. And with a lot of stuff that's on, that they do just video or do video as well. Like, this is just like radio, like the olden days type of shit, That's what I like. And there's little bits of video, like we took one, but they're, here and there. But it reminds me one of the many things that influenced me wanting to get into radio. But then being in radio, but one of my friends that I met in radio school, you ever have, you've had one of those friends where you'd spend, an hour or more on the phone back in the day, if you're, one of those old folks like me at 48. Back in the day, and you'd spend certain friends, you could fucking talk for hours, all kinds of shit. Every time at the end, not every time, but most of them, you get at the end, you'd be like, right before you hang up, you're like, man, or halfway through, you'd be like, if only we could record this fucking conversation. This would be fucking hilarious for other people to listen to, because we're laughing, and there's plenty of inside jokes that are explained enough from our conversation each time. Like little pieces of like how I started this podcast, where, we hear me say the that's odd, eerie almost. That started with me and him, to where anybody, it was like this, our own language. It's like we spoke a different version of Klingon, where if we were together, and if anybody said the word odd, we'd say eerie almost. Or whenever he would say that's odd, I'd say eerie almost. Or whenever I'd say that's odd, he'd say eerie almost. So we had that, how you develop those stupid little things with your friends, these little phrases or quotes from a movie or a TV show. There was this one part of what was it? Oh, Mitchell, Mystery Science Theater 3000 was one of his favorite shows, which he introduced me to, because I didn't have cable for a long time. So I'm from the sticks. And one of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 shows back on Comedy Central, and whatever other, I think it might have been on somewhere else, I don't know, whatever. But Mitchell with Joe Don Baker, and John Saxon was in it, and I think Linda Evans. Yes, Linda Evans. Mitchell. It's fucking horrible. Like this fucking car chase where they're going like 20 miles an hour. It's so fucking funny the way they destroy this movie. Anyway, there's a part where, is it John Saxon? Or no, it's the guy that used to do the Folgers voiceover, I believe. I can't remember the actor's name. I can see his face. The phone rings. He walks over to his phone, and the camera, I think, starts on the phone, and then follows him up as he picks it up and answers it. And before he actually says anything, the robot, one of the characters on the show, goes, "Hi, Larry, I love your show." Oh, shit. Oh, I fucking still to this day. Oh, man, that's so funny. So, anyway, obviously, if you're, a thinker like me, you're realizing that a lot of times when we would call each other, and this is, we're talking 94, I think was when we met. So not everybody had caller ID like you do today. It was the old phone. So a lot of times you didn't answer the phone without caller ID. Sometimes, whoever. But a lot of times, we would do it to each other. Where as soon as, hello, hi, Larry, I love your show. Fuck. Hey, let's smoke another. Excuse me. Oh, shit, that's funny. Hi, Larry, I love your show. And then I carried that on to when I did this radio show on WINZ in Miami, SuperTalk 940. Oh, God, it was so awful. But one of the guys that was on the air, who was also the program director, he called himself Mr. SuperTalk. And, which was fine. It could have worked if he was compelling, but whatever. I was his producer / sidekick, one of a handful that he had. And the one that, didn't bring his ratings down, but whatever. So, the one that was most popular, yeah, whatever. The one that did, most work, yeah, whatever. Shh. The one that was funnier than him, yeah, shh. Stop it. Anyway, one of the fun things that I brought to the show was when I wanted that to be our greeting. He knew the reference, and he thought it was funny, but he didn't think it was well known enough. But it had to take a while to catch on because we were only on once or twice a week. So, but he didn't want to, give it the time to catch on. But what I would tell people, kind of like where Ron Show had Maha Bone, where you go, hey, Amy in Tallahassee, Maha Bone boys. And they say Maha Bone back, or more in the balls, or, just a little greeting, like Rick and Suds, buttloads, back at you. It was a greeting that I wanted, and it had been explained on the air to what it was from. But it was like one of those little things I brought, wanted to be, just add fun to the show to where I would, when Mr. SuperTalk would say, let's go to Joe in Miami, hi, Larry, I love your show, and he'd laugh, and it worked. It was working. But, it's one of those things where, your ideas get sliced because they're just too good and fun. But, it wasn't like I was ripping anything off. I was creating our own little greeting that was fun. That was, one of the reasons was I believed that most of the listeners of the show, Mr. SuperTalk, at least when I was part of it, most of the people that were listening, I believed were adding their own little things while they were sitting there listening. And this is in the late 90s, where we didn't have the internet, so your entertainment was limited. So I just felt that most of the listeners, people that were sitting through the show and enjoying it, were adding their own little Mystery Science Theater 3000 shit, because let's just say that one of the things that ruins a show or a conversation is when the person talking laughs at their own quote-unquote jokes or funny lines. It is 30 minutes and 14 seconds into this hour 71 of the Waning Interest podcast. And the only thing you've heard me laugh at out of all the fucking funny things that have happened, have you heard me laugh at any of them? You've heard me laugh once. I'm not supposed to be the one laughing. I'm the host. Hank laughed. Larry didn't really laugh. Well, he did, but at Hank. But whatever. You know what I'm saying. I was willing to play the Hank. Are you having issues with an old show? Shh. That's what podcasts are for. Right? Drink time. I might have to pause and make a little refill. Once again, I take too much time between podcasts and you write down too many fucking notes. And you're like, oh shit, oh, I get that, I'm going to get that. I'm like, and then, because then, not notes, basically just bullet points. And then you realize, you want to try to get as much out of each bullet point that you can. That's what I try to do. In one way, my way. Lost or not. But then you realize, whoa, I really went off on that one. I really babbled, let myself go. And my notes, my bullet points are building up because I'm not getting to all of them. Because I normally do, if you're new. Didn't mean to rhyme, but fuck, I'm good, man. If you're new, what was I going to say? I don't know. What was that? Shit, I should have done that old Simpsons line. Simpsons, Homer. I don't know. Something about being gay. It was always the greatest punch to, if anybody says, if you ever heard anybody, that's another one that Eric and I would say, if we heard anybody say, what'd he say? I don't know, something about being gay. Didn't matter what it was about. You know, that old language, that personal language with a friend that I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Shit, I know, I did get lost on something. What was it? Oh, fucking bullshit. Pausing and getting another drink. No, we know it'll come back. But the notes, they start collecting. And you're like, oh shit, didn't get to that. So push it to the next one, push it to the next one. And it's nice to have fucking notes. And it's also nice to, proof listen and not puke my guts out. Because, that's, especially on camera when I've done acting, first time I see shit, most of the time it's, you have to get used to it. But I've done the radio thing for so long that I know what the fuck I sound like. I'm fucking funny. I'm not the funniest fuck, but I'm an entertaining little shit. I think. Because normally on those phone calls, it's not just with Eric that, bam, bam, we were laughing and shit. We've all have those people where we'd have them on the phone and they were just like the greatest audience. And it felt like sometimes you're in a conversation, you just make them laugh. Everything was making them laugh, like you were in a zone. No, you don't feel that? I did. Now, see right there, Mr. SuperTalk would have started laughing right after the I did, ruined the fucking joke, and where I would come in and save him. See, I was like the opposite of Hank Kingsley. But no, I was like, no, Hank Kingsley that had more to do, because he was no Larry Sanders. Oh, and that was the other thing. With the Larry Sanders show, with Mr. SuperTalk, my creative open, I combined the station stuff with that little chunk from Larry Sanders at the beginning, where you almost always started with Hank, and that sign says applesauce. I'm kidding. It says applause. Now remember, the better you are, the better. And he says Larry is, but I cut it out and I had Mr. SuperTalk say I am, and then the rest of the Hank Kingsley thing, and then boom into the normal station. It was cool because it was different, it was creative, it was cool, it worked, people liked it, and it gave the show a sense of, oh wait, there should be some pretty smart stuff in here if they're going to use Larry Sanders, a chunk of Larry Sanders as part of the open. Hey. And at the time, still is one of the greatest fucking shows ever. I could watch that show constantly. If you've never watched Larry Sanders, but you're a fan of Modern Family or Arrested Development or The Office, go watch Larry Sanders, which pretty much started that whole kind of documentary style, that one single camera style, no laugh track. It's so fucking good. But with it seems like that's a callback to the Hi Larry, I Love Your Show. Well, that was a different thing, because I believe, I don't know if they ever said it, but in the show, Mystery Science Theater 3000, when they did the Mitchell thing, I believe that Hi Larry, I Love Your Show was a Larry King reference with them. So it still worked with using the Hank thing from Larry Sanders for our open, but then our greeting also being Hi Larry, I Love Your Show. It worked because, I don't know, I wanted Mr. SuperTalk people to think that his name was Larry. Because it was more fun, Iggy, it was more fun to, except for when because he could be funny, but only if he didn't laugh after everything he said, it would have been funnier. Because with the Mr. SuperTalk thing, of course, many callers would ask, hey, what is your real name? Who are you? Sometimes he would be a wise ass and make something up that was somewhat clever, but he would ruin it with a laugh, whatever. And sometimes he would say what his name really was and just kind of throw it away, no big deal, not make any fun of it. But of course the other ones were more entertaining. So that's why I was like, just let everybody think your name is Larry. It's more fun when you make it up. Because nobody would catch on where, as I say, Hi Larry, I Love Your Show, for the greeting, and then they go on, then they'd ask about his real name, and hey, I don't remember him ever saying, hey, he just said Larry. But I thought it worked, and I thought it also worked because his name, he's calling himself Mr. SuperTalk, and that's what's in the open, and blah, blah, blah. So the greeting made it even funnier. Hi, Larry, I love your show. And his name's not even Larry, so it just added to the, it worked. But that's also where this cat is going to break, and you ain't even going to notice. But it's like Ronnie B said, go with the joke. See, you didn't even notice that edit. Did you? Did you? Did you? I didn't think so, but maybe. No, I don't think you'll find it. There was something there, a little Easter egg. It's shut up, man. I wanted to come back so much stronger. But seriously, it was one of those blows. To finish the story, I also had another gig at the radio station. So that was sort of a side gig. And let's put it this way. He got tired of me being the funny part of the show. And I knew we had listeners. I used to hear from people. But he fired me. And he couldn't even do it to my face. He sent me an email from down the hall. And it was just the further. We were already the ship was already broken in half. And we were just the second half that was still floating on top. It hadn't tipped yet and gone boom with Jack and Rose, floating. But we were on our way there. That half, with Neil Rogers gone, Phil Hendry gone, Rick and Suds were just floating in the wind, and all the other shit. That radio station was so fucking destroyed. Oh, memories. I should get back to what I was doing, right? Hey, this is a perfect time to mention the Patreon. Patreon.com/waninginterest. You should go there, and that's where you can be part of the whips, and you can hear a bunch of those other hours I was mentioning, or sometimes 30. But I think only, I don't know. I think only 2 Patreon hours are only 30, but some of you might be going, whoo, 30's enough. Whew. I don't blame you. Patreon. Excuse me. You can follow me on Twitter at Interest Waning. Obviously, this is all waning with a Y, but you knew that. I just enjoy being Captain Obvious from time to time. And trying to rhyme. I came up with something. Hey, thank you. Hey, that guy on the open of the show. If you're new, that's Joe Cruz, cruzvo.com. His link is wherever this podcast is. You want a cool voice guy? You should go to Joe, because I said so. Thank you. And Joe would say so too, because, I was looking for another ooh, and I just, sometimes when I think of Joe, I do kind of say ooh, but that's a totally different story that I'm going to save for the future. There is no future, right? Go to Joe. Hey, I've mentioned Ma on the podcast before, but I've never told you what her name is. So it's funny to know in this time, 2020, where her first name has basically become slang for the C word. And it's beautiful because I didn't think this many people were listening to me all these years. You just have that, oh, you were listening, I do, you like me. It gave me a Sally Field moment. Thank you, Sally, for doing that years ago when you won that Oscar, so you could give me a reference for a little jokey doke. Woohoo! Should we move on? I probably would. Where was I? I don't even know what the fuck. What? Shh. Drink. Oh, my mom's first name being. Woo. I'm not going to say it because, it's more fun, if I don't. I would think that you could figure it out. What kind of clues could I give? Now it's April 2020. Sorry, May 2020. So there's your reference point to where in this time, within the last few months, at least popularity-wise for me, and I'm pretty much on... I don't know. I don't have my big toe stuck in on every piece of shit, but it's in a lot because that's where mushrooms come from. But whatever, that's a different story. Anyway, as far as I know, it's only been in the last couple of months where a female's first name that starts with a K has become the new thing to call somebody instead of saying the C word. That's as far as I'm going with the reference. But anyway, you see, did I just explain a joke? Well, you kind of had to because, there wasn't the biggest setup because you were giving it for the now and not thinking about the future, listener. So you did what you could. Right, let's move on. I said Twitter, right? Yes. But boy, this, which I call the quarandemic, I was already a broke, shut-in douchebag that watched and listened to too many podcasts, so this quarandemic hasn't really changed much for me, luckily. Although I did stand up here and, I'd go out that's basically all I would go out for the last couple of years. Once in a while I'd go to a bar just for the hell of it. And sometimes I wouldn't even drink. I would sometimes bring a book to bars, to the Laurel Tavern up the street when I lived in Studio City, California. But most of the time I was home. If I did go out to do really anything else, it was with my kid besides go to the store or stand up. But I was otherwise in and, doing voiceover from home. So during the day, most days I didn't leave the house. And if I did go somewhere for an audition that I didn't have to do, couldn't do at home, I was right back home. I didn't go I was such a shut-in. So anyway, this is I've been saying enjoy it. Those that have joined the club of shut-in, which is really, it's almost like I've manifested this whole thing. But I'm not the only one thinking that. But I'm not thinking about it for real. I'm just joking. Hey, did I tell you about Instagram? Instagram, Wayne Roberts 811. I don't really do much there at the moment. Who knows? Maybe I'll do something. But Wayne Roberts 811 is also my old Twitter handle, which is still there apparently. You can see it, but I don't have access to it at the moment because I got kicked off, which is why I created Interest Waning. What are the... Oh, I wanted to tell the story about... what? Oh, it was one of the ladies... Oh, if you're new... I'm in a house where it's like the Golden Girls... but instead of a wise ass mom, there's a wise ass son. Hi. The ladies that own the house with my mom, one of them, she's known them for years, since they were in their teens. Well, one of them, I used to babysit her daughters, and when I was a teenager, and her husband had a Playboy subscription, which was cool for me because right when you would walk through the door of their house, there was a sort of landing, and there was like this bookshelves and a little spot, and where they would throw their mail right there, and then there was the stairwell. To the right, you would go to the living room. To the left, you would go into the kitchen. And a lot of times he'd, this is the 80s, the late 80s. So I think I was a junior in high school. So I don't know if they were wrapped like they are today. They were something, but they were still clear. Anyway, it said something about drugs on the cover, and usually a lot of times he'd open it and just scale through it and then leave it sitting there, because the little girls were so little they couldn't even reach up there and see what was up there or whatever. Anyway, I would always look, because it was sometimes a surprise. Well, one of them had this article that was great. It was like this 7 or 8 page article that had its second centerfold with this chart of drugs, from natural shit to stuff made in the lab, in this centerfold of a chart, and telling you what it did, what kind of effects, and the withdrawals, and this very detailed drug stuff. And I'm looking at this as a junior in high school, and whoa, and wait, tea is a hallucinogen? What? Tea? You can snort tea? So what if we tried it? Don't. Lipton stuff, don't. Or no, smoke it. No, it was nutmeg that apparently is a hallucinogen that you can snort it, but it has to be really, don't do it. I'm not advocating it at all. But it was just one of the things. I was like, what? So of course I showed some friends, or told some friends. And then, not too long after, we got this assignment in English class to do a report on something that you find interesting that's in the normal, excuse this box, in the something that's newsworthy. And not only that, but you had to have your references. You had to list the references, like what is it called in the back of a book, or bibliography, or some, whatever the fuck. I'm talking 1987, 1988. I can't remember that much shit. I've never written a book. Maybe it'll come to me. Maybe it won't. Doesn't matter. Move on. Sure. Drink? Sure. So we get that assignment. And some people will think there's an edit there, but no, there was no edit. That's just me doing that kind of shit. Whatever. So we get this assignment. With that kind of thing, do this report thing. And I'm thinking, well, the most interesting fucking thing, drugs. I just saw that in that Playboy. I have access to it, and I can actually ask to borrow it so I can use it at home for other things, while I also use it as a reference for my wonderful report that I'm going to do and get this incredibly good grade for me. I was should have been, B plus student, but I was more of a C minus because, I was a dipshit. I could have gotten better grades. Whatever. We all could have done, right? No. So, move on. Anyway, and I also thought, what a cool fucking thing. Not only it's something I'm interested in, because that's what you want to do, a report on, something that you're actually interested in. And that was getting pretty interesting with, being that age and already knowing a bunch of people that are alcoholics and a few people that have had cocaine problems and have been in rehab and stuff. So it was an interesting topic. You're going to do something, be interested in it, and it will be interesting. Kind of like acting. Be interested. That's one of the secrets. Just be interested in what you're doing, and you'll be interesting to watch. That's one of the many things, but whatever. God damn it. Stop getting off the road. Wow. No, I wanted to give myself an excuse to whisper sing. Whisper sing. That's a new word. Fuck yeah. We did something new today. Anyway, I thought that, that would be cool not only to do a report on drugs, that's going to be fun, but also that to have fucking Playboy at the end for one of your references and to have a teacher actually probably say something and it'll be something entertaining and something, add something, and it got laughs. It wasn't an oral report. That one I did on smoking, where I wanted to do that, where we had to do like a report and actually had to interview somebody. And on that one, I decided to do the smoking because a couple of years before we got into the high school, they actually had a smoking section for the students, a smoking area, which was out behind the gym. Funny. And they'd taken it away. And so that was interesting to me. And, who'd be an interesting person to interview for this report but the fucking principal? The principal who had suspended me for smoking in the boys' room. That's no shit. I was smoking in the boys' room. Jesus Christ. I'll tell that story real quick. But before that, I was interviewing him for it. And I said, why did they get rid of it, the smoking area? And he said, because they couldn't control what was being smoked. And the cool part was that was an oral report. So when I said it out loud in front of the class, got a big laugh. And so did the fact that I had been suspended for smoking in the school, and he had been the one that caught me, where I walked in not meaning to smoke. I had smoked in the fucking bathroom many times before. And it was the downstairs, and I walked in just to pee, and I went over to the stall that was closest to the urinal closest to the first stall wall, which was like a brick wall. And I was like, somebody's smoking in here, and I was pissing. My buddy Lee pops his head over the thing, goes, hey, and he's smoking a cigarette, and I went, oh, dude, let me have a couple drags. I take a couple drags, I turn my head, and there's the principal standing there, who had silently come through because he was on crutches. Because he had busted his knee while skiing. And then I go and get a report to do, and I decide to do it on that. I got suspended for, I think, 3 or 5 days or whatever. And it wasn't even about smoking weed, man. I didn't even mean to tell that story, but that's how it goes. You do little bullet points, and you go, hey, I'm going to do this, do that, and, it turns into something, and now I got a whole bunch of notes that I just got pushed. Anyway, watch Redacted tonight. Corporate Report, The Jimmy Dore Show, Kim Iverson, Kyle Kalinske, Abby Martin. Look for yourself. I'm just here to be a fun, babbling lecturer. Remember, we're all Neo, a.k.a. One. Sorry, ran long, had to bump comedian Andy Andrus. Thanks, Gary. Wow. Daddy loves you.